the last one. Very exciting. Okay, so for our last talk of the day, we actually have a two-parter. We're going to have two speakers up on stage, which is pretty awesome. They are Terry Culver and Shane Jonas. They are CEO and core developers at ETC Labs. They're here today to talk about some new community tooling that they've built for ETC. So let's give them a round of applause and welcome them up.
Hi there, and thank you for the warm welcome. Shane will join us in just a minute. As you can tell, I'm Terry Culver, and we are based in San Francisco, California. We operate an accelerator where we support and invest in blockchain startups, those focused on ETC and ETC-related blockchains such as Ethereum. And we also host a team of 14 core developers working on strengthening the blockchain itself. I'm going to talk a little bit about our approach and the accelerator, and then Shane will come up and talk about an exciting new release that we'd like to share with you. Okay. We believe in the future of ETC. It has enormous potential, but we don't think that this potential comes at the expense of other blockchains. Our approach is to focus on, first, interoperability and on tools that benefit not just ETC, but ETH and other blockchains as well. We all know that ETC was established around the principle of immutability. But this principle is not a constraint. Instead, we think of it as a foundation upon which to build. We also think that this principle is not an excuse to be isolated. We really think that the future of ETC depends upon its ability to collaborate with other chains, on our ability to innovate and collaborate with other chains, and to contribute not just to the ETC community, but to the ETH and other ones as well. We think that there tends to be a little bit too much isolationism in the different blockchains, and this is something that we're committed to overcoming. We do this first through the incubator. We are just about to finish the first cohort in the accelerator, where we have 12 startups working on a range of different DApps and protocol level solutions. And I'd like to highlight two for you today that I think are really interesting. One is called Kryzen, and they offer a algorithmic trading solution for anybody. You can go onto their website, you can become a member. And by the way, it's not ETC specific, so this isn't simply about Ethereum Classic. You can go onto their website, become a member, you can design and backtest your own trading algorithms for crypto, and then apply those onto different exchanges. In a sense, everybody can become an algorithmic trader. They constantly are updating the different features and trading strategies that you can develop and implement, and they're growing. They're already linked with one exchange, and there are others on the horizon. If you're interested in the trading side of things, I encourage you to check this out. It's got a great interface, simple to use, and the underlying algorithms are actually fairly sophisticated. The second is called Ethernode. And basically what they've done is built a device that enables you to create your own node at home for Ethereum-based blockchains. And it also allows you to build your own home network. And Yaz from the cooperative is here. He speaks tomorrow. He's got one of these with him. If you see him around, ask him to show it to you. It's lightweight, portable, durable, very cool. This device, in a sense, democratizes the networking process that's so essential in the blockchain ecosystem. And we have many other startups in the lab, and if you'd like to check them out, please go to the website. I think this is, like I mentioned, just our first cohort. Our second cohort will start in September, and we're already seeing a significant increase in the number of applications. For the first cohort, we saw about 150 applications. This time around, we'll probably see north of 250, 300. So what that means to us is that there's an enormous amount of interest in experimenting in this space, and there's a lack of places where people can go in order to get the support, the investment, and the technical expertise to conduct that kind of experimentation. On to the second part, we do host a team of core developers working on a range of projects. I'm not going to go into too much detail, and instead let my colleague Shane, who is much more of an expert on this side of things, come up and tell you about that. Shane.
All right. Yeah, so we do have a range of projects you can see here. A lot of them are focused on interoperability. We have an LLVM project as well to have Sputnik VM as the backend for LLVM. We also work on classic get multi-geth. We also have dApps. And we have another project which is OpenRPC. And, oh, that worked, okay. So, yeah. I'll maybe dive pretty deep into OpenRPC. So let's see. Let me talk a bit about the problem first. So the problem is that, well, first of all, JSON RPC isn't going away. And we currently have some things like we have very repetitive and outdated JSON RPC clients, as well as documentation. And it's very unclear like what JSON RPC methods an API has, like between geth and parity. Like it's very unclear what methods it has versus the other. And there's also, with that, you just get a lot of API incompatibilities. But it's not all bad news. JSON RPC is pretty simple. It's transport agnostic, and it's actually really widely used in the blockchain space. Bitcoin's built on it, Ethereum's built on it. There's a lot of other ones I won't get into. But yeah, so the big thing that we saw is that there's like a big gap in tooling around JSON RPC. And there's lots of stuff out there that we can look up to for dealing with like automation and tooling. And some of those are gRPC and Swagger. But JSON RPC lags behind a lot. So what would we need to get to the level of, like, say, Swagger tooling or gRPC tooling? What we need is like an interface description for JSON RPC APIs. And ideally, that's human and machine readable, which would get us like service discovery. We also need like clients for many languages, not just JavaScript, not just Python, right? Should be able to do it for many languages. And ideally documentation for those individual languages, as well as like just general API documentation. So that brings me into talking about OpenRPC, and what is it? It is a simple JSON interface description for JSON RPC APIs. When properly defined, it can a consumer can easily understand and just interact with a remote with one of these remote services. The big vision here is to raise the bar for JSON RPC tooling just across the entire blockchain space to cut down on developer work and bugs and compatibility issues. So what does this thing look like? Here's like a 10,000-foot view. Just has like some metadata info, servers. Like the big crux of it here is like the method definitions. You can also define tags, external docs, extensions, and you can compose those all together with components. So that's the 10,000-foot view. We've released the 1.0 of the spec so far. You can check it out here at github.com, OpenRPC spec. But this is pretty meta. So let me dive into like an example of, let's say, ETH block number. So ETH block number, it takes no params, and it returns the current block number. So what would a document look like for that? It looks like this. So here's the info metadata where you can put title, description, and the version of your API. And here's the methods, right? So here's ETH block number, and it takes no params, and the result that it returns is a schema, which is type string. And just for a description here, it's a hex representation of the most recent block. So this lets us do like some pretty amazing stuff. Like this is already helpful. Like if I just had this, I'd be able to do a lot. But we've also built a lot of tooling around this already. One of those is the playground. So what this does is you have like an editor on the left, which lets you autocomplete everything from the spec, and you have documentation on the right-hand side. And this lets you basically interactively build your OpenRPC document. So one of the other tools is obviously documentation, which is like, say, the right-hand side of the playground I was talking about, but you can obviously use it on its own. And one of the next tool would be like the mock server, which lets you mock out an entire JSON RPC API. And in this case, I have an example pairing where I'm just returning like the Genesis block here, 0x0. And the mock server is also great because it implements service discovery. So you can see here, like if I call the JSON RPC method for RPC discover, then I get actually my OpenRPC document back. And then you can use those to feed into the rest of the tools. So another great tool that we have is generating clients. So in this case, I have a multi-geth RPC client, and you can see I just like auto-completed ETH block number, and you can see like it's giving me like inline documentation in my editor for all of this stuff. Okay. So what's next for us? What's next for all this tooling? So one of it is multi-geth support. We have a branch up here now. It should be in the next couple weeks. And right now, the client generator support TypeScript, JavaScript, and Rust, but we want to have many more. Let's say like Golang, Scala, a bunch of other ones would be great. A bunch of other incremental tooling improvements, and we also have improvement proposals up for Ethereum Classic, for Ethereum, and we also have one for Bitcoin. So if you want to check those out and get some conversation going, and maybe I'll touch a bit more on the multi-geth support here and what our like big giant vision is for the use case for multi-geth. So multi-geth is here on the right-hand side, exposes the JSON RPC API, but it also exposes like the JSON RPC OpenRPC document, which lets you use the client generator to generate all these clients. And also you can have like, I showed the playground, which gives you kind of like interactive documentation for the JSON RPC API. Okay, so hopefully that showed you guys what our vision is for a lot of our tooling, which is like leveling up the entire blockchain's tooling. And it doesn't have to be for a specific chain. And I would hope everyone would check out github.com/OpenRPC and maybe contribute. Thanks.